It was a night like any other. July 15th, 2024. The clock ticked past midnight. We were driving back from a family wedding, exhausted but content.
The highway stretched before them, a dark ribbon against the even darker expanse of the night sky. The moon was hidden behind a thick blanket of clouds, casting an eerie glow on the deserted road.
We had heard the stories, of course. Stories about the highway, about the strange occurrences, about the spirits that roamed it.
She gripped the steering wheel a little tighter, her knuckles turning white in the dim light of the dashboard. Her friend, seated beside her, shivered, pulling her shawl tighter around her.
I could feel it too. The sudden drop in temperature, the prickling sensation at the back of my neck, the overwhelming feeling of being watched. The highway, usually alive with the sound of speeding trucks and late-night travelers, was eerily silent. It was as if even the night creatures knew better than to venture out on this particular stretch of asphalt.
She tried to focus on the road, pushing the unsettling feeling aside. She told herself it was just the fatigue, the late hour playing tricks on her mind. But deep down, a primal fear gnawed at her, whispering of unseen dangers lurking in the shadows. She knew, with a certainty that chilled her to the bone, that tonight they were not alone.
Did you see that?
His voice tight with apprehension, Manish Bai exclaimed. His wife, startled by the sudden stop, nodded silently, her eyes fixed on the apparition in front of them. The girl wore a torn and dirty dress, her hair matted and unkempt. She looked lost, vulnerable, in desperate need of help. Manish Bai's heart went out to her. He couldn't leave a child stranded on a deserted highway.
We have to help her. Manish, are you sure? What if it's a trap?
Manish Bai understood his wife's fear, but he couldn't ignore the desperate plea in the young girl's eyes.
We can't just leave her here. It's not safe. We'll be quick. Just ask her where she needs to go.
He put the car in park and reached for the door handle.
Manish, please. Something doesn't feel right.
She whispered, her voice trembling. He gently pried her fingers loose, his own heart pounding in his chest.
I know.
He tried to sound reassuring. He rolled down the window a fraction, just enough to be heard.
Hello, are you all right? Do you need help?
The girl didn't answer. She just stood there, her small frame illuminated by the headlights, her eyes never leaving theirs. The silence was unnerving. Despite his growing unease, Manish Bai stepped out of the car.
Stay here.
He instructed his wife, his voice firm despite the tremor in his heart. He approached the girl slowly, his hands raised in a gesture of peace.
It's all right. We're here to help. What's your name? Where are you going?
The closer he got, the more uneasy he felt. There was something off about the girl, something unnatural in her stillness, in the way she just stared at him with those wide, unblinking eyes.
Where are your parents? Do you need us to call someone?
He was now only a few feet away. The girl remained silent, her gaze never wavering, and then she smiled. It wasn't the innocent smile of a child. It was a chilling, grotesque contortion of her features, revealing rows of sharp, pointed teeth. Manish Bai gasped, stumbling back in horror. He had seen enough to know that this was not a normal child. This was something else, something sinister.
He spun around, his heart pounding against his ribs, and ran back towards the car. Drive! 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 He screamed, throwing himself at the passenger door. But the door wouldn't budge. It was as if an invisible force was holding it shut. He slammed his shoulder against the door again and again, panic surging through him. The girl was getting closer, her chilling smile widening with each passing second. He could hear his wife's terrified screams. "It's not opening! It's not opening!" she cried, her voice shrill with fear. Manish Bai threw himself against the door one last time, putting all his weight behind it. The lock finally gave way with a sickening crunch, and he tumbled into the car, landing in a heap on his wife's lap. He scrambled back onto his seat, slamming the door shut just as the girl reached the car. The windows were instantly fogged with their panicked breaths as they fumbled with the locks, securing every single one. They could hear the girl outside, her small hands pounding against the windows, her high-pitched laughter echoing through the night. The laughter was chilling, filled with a malice that sent shivers down their spines. It seemed to surround the car, to seep into their bones, wrapping them in a blanket of pure terror. Manish Pai fumbled with the keys, his hands shaking so badly he could barely find the ignition. The engine roared to life, and he slammed his foot down on the accelerator. The car lurched forward, tires screeching against the asphalt. He didn't dare look back, his eyes glued to the road ahead. Beside him, his wife sat frozen, her eyes wide with terror, her hand clamped over her mouth to stifle her screams. He drove like a man possessed, his knuckles white on the steering wheel, the horrifying laughter of the girl ringing in his ears. The highway stretched ahead, seemingly endless. Minutes felt like hours, every second an eternity. He didn't slow down, didn't dare take his foot off the accelerator, until the faint glow of the city lights appeared on the horizon. Only then did he allow himself to breathe, his body slumping forward in exhaustion and relief. He had escaped, but the memory of that night, of the girl on the road, of the chilling laughter, would forever be seared into his mind. He risked a glance at his wife. She sat unnaturally still, her eyes staring blankly ahead, her face ashen. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice trembling with concern. She didn't answer. She didn't even seem to register his presence. A cold dread settled in his stomach. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. As they finally entered the city limits, bathed in the warm glow of streetlights, his wife slowly turned her head towards him. A slow, chilling smile spread across her face. It was the same smile, filled with the same eerie malice that he had seen on the face of the girl on the road. "We had so much fun, didn't we, Manish?" she said, her voice a high-pitched, childish whisper. "Let's do it again sometime." Manish Bai slammed on the brakes, his blood turning to ice. He was too late. The spirit, the deceitful entity he had encountered on that lonely highway, had already claimed his wife. He stumbled out of the car, his legs feeling like jelly, and ran towards the lights of a nearby diner, desperate for help, for someone to believe his story. He never forgot that night, the night he had stared into the abyss and barely escaped with his life. And as he recounted his tale, his voice trembling with a terror that time could not erase, one question lingered in the air, chilling everyone present to the bone. Was he truly free of the deceitful spirit, or was it simply biding its time, waiting for the right moment to claim its next victim?